In this video, we'll look at some of the properties of the toolbars that are common to both toolbar styles, either the drop-down or the child tool palette style. Notice there is no toolbar here in this area. It doesn't become available until you select an object, so I'm going to click on a wall, and the wall is now selected, and we see this toolbar appear. All the toolbars can be moved. On the far left, you'll see a dotted drag handle, and when you place the cursor over it, you'll get a four-way arrow. Drag, and you can move the toolbar around. Release it out here in the drawing area, and you can drag it by its top bar. You can leave it here and work with it, or place it around like this. The Edit toolbar appears only when an object is selected. So if I deselect the wall by pressing Escape or just clicking somewhere where there's no other object to select, the Edit toolbar disappears. But it's contextually relevant to selected objects, so it will reappear if I select an object, like this door. It appears right where we had placed it before, and now contains commands related to working with doors. Let's drag it up here, and notice the feedback right there when we move it into a position where it can be docked. So if I let go right now, it will snap and dock right here, and we'll have it available. If we press Escape and deselect, it disappears until we reselect another object, and then it brings up commands related to the type of object selected. Let's drag it by finding that dotted drag handle and drag it back down and snap it into this position. We'll get the feedback right here and release the mouse. So all toolbars have this dotted drag bar at the end, either at the left end typically, or perhaps at the top in this case, and they can be moved around in the same manner. The side windows, the tool palette, the library browser, project browser, and active layer display options can also be moved in a similar manner. So for example, I can move the library browser either by dragging the tab or the top bar, and I can place it somewhere else. It will find snappable docking positions, and when we release the mouse, that's where it will go. If there is no snappable docking position, you can just let go of the mouse and it will float. You can also prevent it from snapping by holding down the Control key before you drag, and then it won't snap into dockable positions at all. It will just float wherever you place it. You can also drag it off to another monitor if you have a dual monitor system, enlarge it over there, and have more drawing area here while having full access to the large library browser. I'll let go now, and it's floating here. I can resize it by the corners and by the edges. And it has 3 panes, and you can also resize the pane areas. These side windows, as well as the toolbars, will all stay where you place them until you move them again. And if ever you want to restore the factory conditions, you can go to Preferences, to Reset Options, and reset your toolbars. And this will place them in the arrangement they had when the program was first shipped to you. So now let's take this library browser and put it back. I'll put it on top of the project browser, let go, and it snaps into position. The top pane lets us search or navigate through the installed library objects. So for example, I could go to Appliances, find Ranges, expand the Standalone Range folder, expand the Standard Size folder, and we begin to see individual library objects. So I'll just click on one of these, and we see it here in the Selection pane and in the Preview pane. If we go back up here and click on the folder, we'll see all of the choices. Pick one here in the Selection pane, it shows in the Preview pane. We can adjust the panes here too, and in the Preview pane you can drag to look at it in different positions. You can restore the position that it is initially in by clicking on it here, and you can use the mouse wheel to go in and look at it or move farther out. And you can also use some toggle buttons here that relate to the panes of the library. These are good buttons to get familiar with. This one shows or hides the Selection pane, the middle one. So if we click it, the Selection pane is hidden. Click again to bring it back. And this one shows or hides the Preview pane. and you can hide both, or you can show both. And if the preview pane is showing, you can toggle it between the standard render view that we see here and a vector view. You can also access preferences here handily. The same button that we would click here to get to preferences. We can often double-click some of the tools in our toolbars for shortcut operations. For example, if I double-click Select Objects, this will open General Plan Defaults, and is a shortcut to getting to General Plan Defaults, which are in Defaults, under Plan. If I click Edit, I get General Plan Defaults. We also have shortcuts that allow us to get to defaults for individual objects. So for example, if I double-click on an exterior wall tool, I'll get exterior wall defaults. Double-click interior wall tool and get interior wall defaults, foundation wall for foundation wall defaults, and so on for the different wall types and for other different objects too. Double-clicking some toolbar tools, like the break wall tool, will not lead to any defaults because there are no defaults for that particular tool. And sometimes just clicking once on a tool will bring something up. For example, display options will open layer display options on the first click. This opens a table of layers alphabetically sorted. Each row is a layer. And we're going to put the objects we draw on layers. So for example, the base cabinets can be on one layer, full cabinets on another, and so on. We can hide the display of any layer, and we can control its color, its weight, its line style, and its text style. Note we can close the library browser by clicking on the X here. We could also close the project browser and the active layer display options table by clicking on the X's. Another way to close them, to toggle them off, is to right-click in a toolbar area. However, don't right-click over a grayed out inactive tool, but right-clicking over any active tool or over this area where there's no tool brings up the choices. And here we can toggle the project browser off. I'll right-click again and toggle off active layer display options. Of course, we can bring them right back by toggling them again. And notice also we have access to toolbars here. Every single toolbar can be displayed or not. We have access to the toolbar configurations, and we can switch between them here just as we can up here. We can also customize toolbars, which we'll talk about in another video. And we can lock the toolbars so they can't be unintentionally altered, or we can unlock them. We have some more toggling features available here in this toolbar. I'll drag it out. Toggle modes. And here we can toggle several features. So for example, if I click here, I will turn on the reference grid. Clicking again toggles it off. You could toggle the colors off and back on. These are very handy tools to get used to because they have a lot of value, and some of them are on, and if they're unintentionally turned off, a function will be lost. And if you know these tools, you can easily recall that they should be turned back on. So we've seen then that these toolbars and side windows are very efficient in many ways, and as we gain experience, we'll soon be able to use them quickly and effectively.